Hey, gorgeous! So, before we get into the wedding stuff, I'm going to just talk about some personal things really quickly. So I remember, I started watching Boku no Hero Academia, which is very cute, very like rags to riches, but with a different sort of theme. It has a really wonderful main protagonist. I love all the characters so far, even the ones who aren't necessarily nice characters. We watched 4 episodes, and it's superheroes, and yeah, just kind of like a coming up and figuring out who you are sort of story. And it's so sweet. And I'm not someone who can usually sit and watch a show. You have to pretty much drag me kicking and screaming to watch anything because I'd rather be busy. So the fact that I've been able to watch 4 episodes in the last 2 days is like really telling for me. So if you like superheroes, if even if you don't like anime, I feel like you should give this a shot. It's a heartwarming show, and I think a lot of people would enjoy it. I hear it's super popular. I know a lot of people have already watched it, and I'm late to the game, but it's good. Next is I had a little bit of an issue with my Invisalign. Nothing major. I went to the dentist to do a cleaning, and they mentioned that some of my teeth seemed a little wobbly. And that's something that can happen with Invisalign because your teeth are shifting. You have to try to keep your aligners in as much as possible so that your teeth don't move around too much, basically. But they said my teeth were more wiggly than they should be. So I knew this already, but I wasn't sure if this was a new problem or if it was the same problem. But essentially, I have really thin gums on the bottom, and I have a little bit of bone loss in my lower jaw, which is unfortunate, but I don't really need to see a periodontist at this point yet. So the dentist told me, I called my ortho talked to my dentist, and it basically got resolved into saying I can keep wearing the Invisalign. I was worried I'd have to give it up or that I'd have to switch to wearing the trays for longer amounts of time. But it's all fine. We're gonna keep going the way it is. Maybe a different day I'll talk about Invisalign more in depth if anybody wants to know about it. I'm like 3/4 of the way in, so I would have really hated to give up now. And my teeth are looking so much better than they used to. And my bite is it's still a little weird, but it's starting to feel better. But on to wedding stuff. So I'm a little annoyed because I forgot to take any videos or pictures yesterday because we went to do our venue tasting and it was amazing. So is this just like the bake when we went to the cake tasting where I was nervous beforehand? But once we got there, it was just great. We met the new venue coordinator who we've only been able to correspond with over email so far. So it was great to meet him. He was a great guy. We ended up talking to him about, gin drinks and things. And that actually brought us into our unity ceremony. We want to mix a bee's knees as a gin drink with like honey syrup and gin and lemon juice. And we asked if it was okay for us to bring alcohol because we're only supposed to get stuff through the venue. And they said it's totally fine, so that's score one thing that we know that we can do at the ceremony. And then yeah, we talked to our venue coordinator, and then we went to where our tasting was. So the way our venue does it, since it's an all-inclusive venue, all the food was prepared right on site. Very easy for us anyway. And they gave us 6 full plates, which was a lot more than I expected. I expected, like tiny portions of other things. And maybe it's like that in other places too. I have no idea. But in our experience, they gave us 6 full plates, and they gave us the option to do like mini plates. So we would each get, each of the 6 dishes on our own. But we decided to just share a plate to make it easier on them. So they brought out like 2 options for each sort of protein. So there were 2 fish options first, and then there were 2 chicken options, and there were 2 beef options. And they basically gave us each a plate with a different thing on it, and we like shared off of each other's plates to see what we liked. So first round, we had fish. So we both got the same steamed vegetables on the side, which were just cooked to perfection. We got this little rice dish, which had some wild rice in it, some regular rice, but wild rice is a big thing around here. And our fish was Jake got salmon and I got the haddock. It was a fried haddock. The haddock was super buttery, very delicious, and we definitely went for the haddock. We're also the salmon was also pretty good, and the glaze with the salmon was great. But me and Jake just immediately went for that one. This was just like the cake tasting where Jake and I both picked the same thing for each option without any like sort of fuss about it. So I guess we just have the same taste, even though it doesn't seem like it half the time. But to be fair, I'm the more picky one as opposed to Jake. All right, to continue with the tasting, next was the chicken dish. So Jake got it was a stuffed chicken with hollandaise sauce, and I got a crusted Parmesan chicken with a champagne sauce. This one was a little harder. We liked both of them. In my opinion, I don't know if Jake actually liked it more or if like his thinking was the way I was thinking. But in my opinion, I figured more people would like the stuffed chicken with hollandaise. It seemed like it would be more in line with what our guests would want. Because to me, both of them were delicious and I liked them both. But I wasn't sure if our guests would enjoy the champagne sauce and that sort of thing. Oh, I forgot. So the side for the chicken, I think, was a carrot. It was a carrot side. And it was very good. It was a bunch of different multicolored carrots and it was delicious. All the sides were really good. So our last one was a beef dish. And our side for that, one of us got asparagus and one of us got, I think it was the same carrot side again. And then we both got mashed potatoes because beef dish. And of course, you can't go wrong with mashed potatoes at all. And Jake got a steak and I got a plate of baby back ribs, I believe. Or no, not, it was short ribs. And we both picked the short ribs because the steak, it has to be cooked to a certain standard, so it was a little more well done. And Jake likes his steak rare, and I don't really like steak, so the short ribs were definitely the better option for us. And yeah, after the tasting, we talked for a little bit. The venue had some back-to-back tastings, so we only really got an hour because more people were coming to do their tastings. But we were able to go down into the other space. So we had our tasting in one area, and then we went down to check out our reception area, just because we wanted to just have another look at the space. And also because our venue coordinator mentioned a seating arrangement, which I think is a great idea. Traditionally, where I live, we have the long head table where everyone is looking out at the rest of the guests. So it's, me and Jake and like the rest of the wedding party going out to the sides, and then we're all just facing forward. I know that sweetheart tables are a thing, but I haven't seen a sweetheart table at a wedding that I've personally been to before. They've all been that sort of table, except for one wedding where they had a harvest table where the couple sat at like the short edge, and then along the sides they did all their groomsmen and bridesmaids. And also they actually included people who weren't in the wedding party, so the partners of their bridal party. So like Jake was in that wedding, but I wasn't, but I still got to sit at the harvest table with all of them, which was amazing. And I wish I could do that, but our wedding party is 12 people, and if you include us, that's 14 people at a table. And so it's just impossible to add partners. Otherwise, we would take up an entire wall, and it's rough. So, and Jake didn't like the idea of a sweetheart table, and the harvest table wouldn't really work. But our venue coordinator brought up the idea of kind of a mashup. So he said a sweetheart table in the middle, so me and Jake are facing everybody. And then on the sides, they'd kind of flare out into a little V, and they'd have harvest tables. So one little table would be our groomsmen, and one little table would be our bridesmaids, and they'd be sticking out so people could see them, but we could also see them and talk to them. Because the worst part about the long table is that you can only really talk to the people next to you, and if you want to talk to someone like further away, you have to peer over somebody and or like yell, and they can't hear you, and then you eventually just have to end up standing up and walking over to talk to them because no one can hear you at this table. I've been a bridesmaid a few times, so I know how the drill. So I love this idea, and I'm excited to put it into practice at our wedding. So we left on a very excited note. I was very happy. And then we went to the 10 minutes to our ceremony site because we didn't actually ask if we go to our ceremony site, but I know he mentioned that there weren't any weddings happening, like just yet, that they had booked. So we knew there wouldn't be any people there. So we drove over, and it was a lot easier to get to than I thought. So we drive in, and there's just an always there sort of sign that says wedding parking over here. So that's one thing we don't need to worry about. So people know where to park. And then there's a little clearing where you can easily see like a little entrance in the trees. And so you have to walk a little ways to get to that entrance, but then there's a short path through the trees. It's not long at all. And then it's another huge clearing, but you're surrounded by trees, and they had an arch already on site. And honestly, I thought it looked really good, and I don't really plan to put any drapery or anything on it. It looks nice the way it is, in my opinion. And it's enough space for all of our guests. The only concern I have is there's like a steep sort of incline, which Jake was excited about. He said in college him and his friends would run up and down inclines like that all the time, but we do have perhaps a dozen kids coming, so I just fingers crossed that no one gets hurt. I really don't want anybody to like fall over the side and stumble, because some of the kids are going to be like 2 or 3, and I don't want anyone to get hurt. So that's the only drawback to the site, but I think it will work out wonderfully. I think everything will be fine, honestly. The only unfortunate thing is there aren't really any good spots for like pictures. The only scenery really is the trees and the arch. We won't really have any like really cool scenery because we planned to do our first look there and all our bridal party photos. But and Jake brought this up. The main point of those photos is to see the people. So I honestly I don't mind. Like once he brought that up, I said, yeah, I don't really see the scenery in the background of things. I see the faces of my friends, like what they're wearing and all that stuff. So it'll all work out perfectly. We left where our ceremony site is, and so I think I mentioned our engagement photo shoot is next weekend. And our photographer mentioned a certain park that she likes to do likes to do engagement photos at. So we decided to stop there on the way. I was pretty sure I'd been there before, and I was right, I have been there before, but Jake hadn't. And it's a beautiful place. There's like sort of a man-made pond, and there are a bunch of those swinging park benches. There are beautiful bridges. There's a lot of beautiful things there, so I'm sure we'll have a ton of fun doing our pictures. I'm sure if she's taken pictures there before, I'm sure she has ideas. I've looked up a couple of pictures from anime that I was like, oh, we could imitate that, but I'll probably forget. I have a habit of my phone is so often glued to my hand. But when I'm out somewhere, I just don't remember it. Like I said, I didn't take any pictures or anything. I was too busy living in the moment, which is it's a great thing, and it's sort of unfortunate, but it all worked out in the end. And that was all the wedding stuff was basically yesterday. I think the only thing that happened last night that was any different was Jake and I really had like a good heart-to-heart discussion about wedding planning. It's one of those harder conversations you need to have because if you can probably tell, I'm very into the wedding. I talk about it all the time. I'm pretty much trying to get all of the wedding stuff out of me when I do these videos, but I also still look on the internet. I still go on a wedding Discord. But with Jake, I bring it up way more than I should, I feel like. There are a lot of decisions that don't need to be made yet, and I bring them up constantly because I think of it, and so if it's in my head, I'm like, this is important, and I have to say it, but it's not really necessary. So we had a discussion where, we're just like, okay, if I have a thought, I should just write it down so I'm not constantly interrupting him when he's trying to like do some programming or practice Japanese. But then I also, kind of aired my grievances like, well, I feel like I have to make all the decisions, and I would like for him to help me with things a little bit more. So, just kind of like the back and forth dialogue. It's not we haven't really had an argument. We're very good at having discussions, which I don't know. Some people think that's bad. I don't think it is in the slightest. It's good that we can each talk and like say our piece, listen to each other, and then try to make a plan that works. And I know this can be one of those difficult things, but I think planning a wedding can really get you in the mindset for having a marriage. I understand that me personally, I think I'm right. I think I'm right all the time. Like, all my ideas are great ideas. Everything I do is perfect. In my head, I'm like, well, that's like, I feel like this is the way things should be. I don't know why anybody else would disagree with me. But also, Jake thinks the same thing. Jake thinks we don't need to talk about napkins. We've got 6 months. Or why do we need to ask a friend to drive us from our hotel to the reception right now? They're not going to remember. That's 6 months from now. That's not a thing we need to worry about just yet. And he's completely right. But I also feel like there are things where I'm like, well, we don't have a rehearsal dinner planned. When are we going to plan that? We need to make a night a week where we can plan things. So that's kind of the compromise we came up with, is try to one night a week talk about it. I'll probably still talk about wedding stuff more than I should, but I'll try not to force decisions on him when he's in the middle of something. Just like, if I'm in the middle of something, I don't really want to hear about his programming either. That's basically the give and take part of it. And it's one of those discussions where I feel like this is a thing that people don't want to talk about, but this is an important thing in a relationship. You need to talk things through, and even if you listen and you don't understand their point of view, you still need to listen. That's the main goal. You need to listen, you need to compromise, and if you can't compromise, then you're in trouble. And I know part of it is a little bit of just our personalities being a little different, which is a great thing. I'm glad that he's more relaxed about things than I am, because if we were both as freaked out as I am all the time, it would just be chaos. And I feel like even less would get done because we'd both just be panicking and making each other more riled up. So it's a great balance for us. But it's also good that we're not both just waiting to the last minute and trying to do things at the very tail end of things. we keep each other on our toes. And I know I also have some like past issues just because this is a different sort of subject, but I planned a trip once. Majority of the trip was fine, but I focused too much on what I wanted to do and I planned it way ahead of time. So Jake felt like he had no input on the trip whatsoever. And he told me that later, and I felt terrible about it. And I think that's why with the wedding, I want to ask him the questions and include him because I know I do things so fast. But then he would rather just have me wait longer, which is a very hard ask for me. So now we're just going to try to focus on just a few main things at a time and just leave the little details for later. Even though I'm currently working on wedding invitations downstairs using GIMP. But that's just one of those things where I know there are things I can't control, but I still like to be busy and do stuff. And so if I sit down and I watch philosophy videos and I make wedding invitations, at least like it's just something that we'll have in advance, and I'm not gonna like print them out. I'm gonna wait and show Jake later instead of trying to ask his opinion about every single thing right now, because I know this isn't a thing that I need to finish right this moment. And that's a better mindset to have. And that's something I need to keep reminding myself of because it's hard to remind myself that I don't have to have everything done right now. And that would be a lot to ask of a person, to do everything by themselves right away immediately. And I shouldn't be doing it by myself. Like, he should be helping. And I'm not saying this in an accusatory way, like, oh, he should be helping me. I'm saying this in I need to just take a step back, make a time for the two of us to go over together instead of me forcing myself to do it right this instant. I know that's a fault of mine, and instead of fixing it, I've just been thinking about it for years and been like, oh, why are you like this? Oh, why do you keep doing things like that? But I haven't been working to fix it until Jake he's not like forcing me to fix it, but he's making me want to fix it for myself. And that's a great thing to have in a relationship, I think, is the point of everything I just said. This is probably very cliche, but it's nice to have someone who makes you want to be the better version of yourself, even if you do have to struggle to work for it, and even if you can't be that version of yourself right away. It's nice to have someone who that gives you a sort of roadmap to saying like, you're great as you are, I love you as you are, and you don't need to change. But if you would like to change, I'm here for you regardless. Like it's a great feeling. I'm just getting all like emotional. Just like, oh, Jake's so great. How'd I get this guy? That's all for this week. I hope you guys are doing well. If you get a chance, please check out Boku no Hero Academia. It's really good. And I'll see you around. Bye.